Hi, my name is Ben Hedges and I am a SharePoint developer and instructor for Point 8020. In this video I will demonstrate how to create a site definition for SharePoint 2010 using Visual Studio 2010. Site definitions are available on the Site Actions, Add New Site dialog, and they include default configuration for the site that is being created. For example, it can include pre-configured lists and pages. I will create a site definition called Filtered Task Site. When a site is created based on this definition in SharePoint, it will include a list called Project Tasks that will appear on the Quick Launch menu, and the default ASPX page will have a visual web part configured that will filter tasks in the list based on their due date. I will switch to Visual Studio and start the new project. I will select a project type of Site Definition. As you see, I can only choose to deploy this site definition as a farm solution. The project opens and the Site Definitions project appears. I will start by editing the site definition onet.xml file. In this example, I will edit the file so that it includes a reference to a new list called Project Tasks. I will also specify a link to that list from the Quick Launch menu. I will define the navigation menus for the new site. I will do that with the navbar XML. This XML is the default XML that is used in site definitions to specify the left-hand Quick Launch menu. I haven't modified this markup, but you can see that I could make changes to the menu if I wanted. Next, I will replace the lists tag with XML that specifies the new list that I will create when the site is created. I have used the type 107, which is the base type for tasks, and I have called my list Project Tasks. I've also specified the URL and page to open from the Quick Launch menu. Next, I will add a visual web part to the site definition. By adding a visual web part, new sites created from this definition will have the web part available to them. I will use the design surface to add a date-time control to my web part. I can then use the properties window to set various properties for this control. I will switch to source view for this visual web part, and I will add another SharePoint control that doesn't appear by default in the toolbox. This is the list view by query control. I will also go back to the datetime control and configure an on-date changed event. To get to the code behind this visual web part, I will right-click the design surface and click View Code. Let me step through the code as I add it. I have a number of import statements that add the Microsoft SharePoint namespace to the project. I have defined some objects that utilize the SharePoint objects. I have an SP Query object and I have an SP Web object called ThisWeb. I will add some code that provides the filter date changed functionality. This defines the Collaborative Application Markup Language, or CAML, that filters the results of the query. You can see that it takes the selected date from the date-time control that was specified on the design surface. On page load, I create an SP Web object called ThisWeb, and then set the list view by query.list to the list Project Tasks. Next, I specify the SP Query object and define the view fields in XML. I then set the query for the list view by query object named Task View. The next step is to add the visual web part to the default ASPX page. At the top of the page, I will add a tag to register the web part. And then I will replace the default placeholder markup with the markup required to render my web part on the page. With that complete, I can now deploy the code and test the new site definition. I will open SharePoint and then I will create a new site. From the Site Actions menu, I will click Create Site. The new site dialog appears, and as I scroll down the list of templates, I can see the Filtered Task List template. I will create a new site based on that. You can see the new site appear with the Project Tasks list created and included on the Quick Launch menu. The default page also appears with the web part on it. To test this, I will create tasks with differing due dates and then use the filter web part. and you can see the filter is working as well.